Look, so Warriors Plus Minus is back, and Tim Kawakami wants me to start it, but I kind of don't think that's fair. I'm fresh off Houston. He's at his house chilling.
Oh, it's good
like,
here.
You should start it.
It's good here.
You should start it.
I want the. You're from the road. You're coming off the road. I want the realness. I want the feel,
I just
authenticity.
got off a flight. Monty Poole is on my flight with me. We're laboring through the night on no sleep. I feel like a beat writer again. Is this what you wanted from me when you got me?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I wanted. I wanted to work Marcus Thompson as hard as possible and just work for the company. Give us those subscriptions, man. Bring it in. Subscriptions.
Give all we got, huh? I must say, we're very selective about what we travel to and where we go, but Tim, I think this one was kind of a waste.
Uh-oh. Wait a minute now. Wait, now you tell me this? Well, that was all right.
I mean, we didn't know.
Yeah, it's
we didn't know at the time, but we learned absolutely nothing from this road trip because James Harden is injured and didn't play, and Kevin Durant didn't play, and it just became a relatively, regular NBA game in that sense, which is disappointing because there aren't that many good games. There aren't that many marquee Warriors showdowns anymore. And if Houston's not one of them, that was supposed to be one of them.
Yeah, but the NBA kind of screwed it up to make it on a back-to-back for both teams. So they really set it up for them to say, you know what, some of our guys aren't going to play. Now, I'm not saying that's why they didn't play, but it made it a lot easier for both teams to not play these guys. And for both teams maybe not to be, neither one of them was fantastic defensively. It wasn't exactly a meeting of these teams at their best. But I still think it's interesting because the Warriors in just a normal game mode is interesting itself. And you found yourself with an interesting conclusion out of it. So I was happy with that. I'm sure Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni and James Harden probably didn't love what you wrote. But I can agree with the general premise of what you said, which was...
Man, they took 53. They're not ready. Look,
it didn't even feel like that, by the way. I went back and they took 50. To me, it's just like, that's who the Rockets are, so it just didn't strike me. But then when I saw it, I went, that's ridiculous. You can't beat the Warriors shooting 50. Not in a series. Not in a series like that.
And that's the part, I feel like Houston has the talent. They've got two, top-heavy stars, but then they also added some pieces, right? PJ Tucker and Bob Mute. There are guys who you can say, all right, I need you to guard this dude for 10 minutes, right? They can do that. I feel like they should be further along. But watching them play, especially when they had a chance to beat the Warriors, it was like Rucker Park. It was, it was clear that they don't get this yet, how you do this. And the crazy part is, you could say Harden wasn't there, but Harden has shown he doesn't get it in the playoffs. When he's trying to dance and go one-on-one and dribble 50 times and has 12 turnovers. So are we sure he's actually figured it out? The presence of Chris Paul didn't prevent them from doing silly stuff like taking 13 threes in the fourth quarter when the Warriors don't have a rim protector on the floor other than Kevon Looney. It's stuff like that where you're like, what are you guys doing? Gerald Green, who's from Houston, if you didn't know that, you can tell about his tattoo celebrating Houston. He goes off, he's going nuts from three, and it became like a showcase instead of, hey, let's win this game. There came a point where the Warriors said, all right, let's win this game, and they're getting backdoor layups, and they're moving the ball, right? And all of a sudden, Curry's going through the hole, driving at will, and Clay's getting the looks he wants. When they decided to win, it was like, all right, let's do this. When Houston decided to win, they jacked up threes. And it's disappointing that they don't get that yet.
Yeah, and by the way, Ryan Anderson, did he do anything in this game?
He cannot play in this series.
Yep.
He just cannot play.
And
didn't he get a lot of money?
That's the reason why they can't go get LeBron is because they can't get rid of Ryan Anderson. Whole other story. But, yeah, he's getting 11 a year or something like that, 12 a year. It's rough. And PJ Tucker had a nice first game against the Warriors, game one, when the Warriors lose that lead and lose to Houston in the season opener. But I don't remember PJ Tucker doing much. Ariza was okay. All these guys.
Ariza was 1 for 9 from three. Or
Yep,
something.
yep. All these guys who I've said are going to be interesting against the Warriors. Some of it is like they're guys like to match up with Durant. So when you pull Durant off the floor, it's like they couldn't really. Again, Harden wasn't there either. But there was nobody for P.J. Tucker to have to erase. It's like he didn't have anybody to guard, so it didn't matter. You're just like, fine, we'll take your defensive guy versus our defensive guy. The Warriors will take that every time. And by a Andre's shot is still, I don't know where it is, but it was bouncy Andre though, right? On a back-to-back, attacking to the rim. He must be feeling a little better in the legs, and the shot's still terrible, but he must be feeling a little bit better these days.
The problem with Houston is they need their defensive players to give them offense or their offensive players to play better defense. And it's going to be tough to pull that off. Like, if P.J. Tucker is making shots, you don't have to do this kind of offense for defense substitution thing. If he's making shots, it helps you. If Trevor Reeves is making shots, it helps you. If Eric Gordon is playing defense, if James Harden is playing defense, it helps you. I don't know if they know how to put that all together yet. And, they have months to do it. They have time to do it. And if they do it, I think that's the Western Conference Final showdown right there. And we might actually have a series if the Rockets can do it. But as it currently stands, Eric Gordon just chucks and he drives with his head down. Yeah. These other guys just shoot. Chris Paul going ISO, James Harden going ISO, and they don't really have a plan for how to play winning basketball. And that's part of the problem. I was talking to, they didn't want me to say their name, but the player in the locker room was like, they're so focused on beating the Warriors. Like, the Warriors had to get over being focused on beating the Clippers and just get focused on playing the best basketball you can play, figuring out what that is, having a standard, and trying to reach that standard. So you play it every time, and that's how you play. I remember Steve Kerr's first year, he was like, they would win, and he'd say, I'm not happy. Look at what we did. We didn't do well, because he was trying to set a standard.
My God, you just as I was trying to interrupt you, you went right to my point. Who gave the Warriors this standard? Who lifted them past the saying, oh, we got to beat the Clippers. Let's just be as good as we can and win a championship. And you're saying it's Kerr? You think it's Kerr's the guy who did this?
Absolutely. I think Kerr's the guy who did it. And he would say he had the players to do it with. Like, he had players who were bought in. He didn't have players who were bucking against him. Like, he had players who were like, all right, we're going to, even if they didn't like him, right, or they didn't like that he was there, even Andre, I remember Andre saying, look, we don't give him a try. Like, this is what Steph said it too. Like, he's our coach, so we're going to hear him out. We're going to go through it. But, like, it better work type situation. So he had them on the list from the beginning. And I don't know, do Houston have those players? Like, is Eric Gordon going to say, all right, I'm going to be the best defensive player I've ever been this year? Like, I don't know. Here's what I know. Gerald Green was on fire like a video game, and Eric Gordon had him wide open in the corner, and he faked the pass, and he took the three himself, and he was 1 for 8. Like, dude, make the extra pass to the guy in the corner. It's that type of stuff where they'd much rather the dagger splashy play instead of, playing like a baseline standard for good, like San Antonio does, like a Boston does, like even Cleveland. When they beat the Warriors, like, they did a lot of the little stuff, the disciplined stuff. J.R. Smith played the best defense of his life when they won that series. Like, that's how it has to be. But now they just want to beat the Warriors. That's all that matters. And they think 53s are going to do it, and it's not. So speaking of Steve Kerr, John Gruden is reportedly getting 10 years, $100 million contract, which makes me wonder, Steve's got a deal coming up. I know there's some crossover, but if you're looking at transformational coaches, how much does Steve Kerr get now?
That's a great question. I think you can say 10. Why couldn't you say 10? Popovich is, 10, 11, and he's the number one. Steve's at 5, which is a great deal when he signed it. Never coached before. Gets 5 years, $25 million, $5 million a year. He's coached three plus of those years. He's going to get a new deal at the end of the year, which I believe I've reported. But I was thinking the number would be 7 a year because it's just bump it up and get him. Brad Stevens is, I think, 6. get him getting that number 2 slot behind Popovich. But when you got John Gruden making $10 million a year, and how many championships has he won? 1, and been out for 10 years, and Steve Kerr's won 2, maybe 3, and is coaching through the greatest time in the history of the franchise. And I don't know if this works without him. I'd say he's worth 10. I'd say he might be worth more than 10. Well, what do you say?
I'd say all he has to do is go to Joe Lacob and says, so Mark Davis doesn't have a problem with cash and you do? And then it becomes $20 million.
Yes.
Hold on, you going to let Mark Davis drop more money than you?
That's good. That's good.
I think he should be, if I'm him, I'm saying, I don't know if Steve is this type of guy to do that. He perfectly understands his Pacific Palisades existence is beautiful, right?
San Diego, not Pacific Palisades.
No, didn't he grow up in Pacific Palisades?
Yeah, okay. He did that, yes.
Yeah, so, he knows he's got a great life. So I don't know if he's cramming to get every dollar, but he could be the highest paid coach in the NBA. Like, he could say, make me the highest paid coach in the NBA. So if that's 11, he can do that, because what we're seeing, even from this group situation, you're not being ranked based on whether you're the best. It's about what the market pays for coaches at the time you're up.
Absolutely.
That's what it's about, right?
It's like a free agency. The guy who makes the most money isn't always the best player. It's a guy who's on the market at the right time. And then the next year is the next guy who tops that number because he's on the market at the right time. Plus, the desperation part of it factors in a little bit for Mark Davis, obviously, probably by 50% on this one. But yeah, I don't think Kerr's going to be holding up anybody. I don't think Kerr's going to be holding out. He's still got another year, by the way. But I do think this might bump the number up from 7 to 8. I'll put it that way. And your point is exactly. Joe doesn't want to look like he's not paying the top price. Joe doesn't want to look like he's being outclassed spending by Mark Davis or by anybody. So this might have got Steve another $1 million a year, which isn't too bad. It's the kind of way I negotiate. It's how I got my deal.
Yeah, so you better hope my deal doesn't come up at the right time.
Mark Davis money. He's gonna go. I want that Marcus Thompson too. Let's see how much is that gonna take. What ownership stake for Marcus Thompson with the Raiders?
So yesterday, or last night, Kevon Looney comes in off the bench, looks great. Kerr gives him the game ball and laws him to the team. He was great. He was great on both ends of the court. He was a stabilizing force, especially when Houston had their way to the rim. And then you tweeted out, JaVale McGee drops another spot.
What? So?
No, I'm just wondering, at what point does this become they have to move him? Do you get to the point where they have to move him just because, it's only fair to him? Because if Looney and Bell are ahead of him, and we already know Zaza and West are, he's the fifth string center. And that means he's never going to play.
And they've still got Damian Jones too.
And you still got Damian Jones. So at what point is there a point where they have to just say, JaVale, thank you for what you did for us. If you want to play, we can move you. We'll send you somewhere where you can play.
Man, I was thinking maybe not. And, you reported, about a week ago that this was something that was on the table where they may be talking about it with Milwaukee. I thought, maybe not. They might keep him around just for insurance and if JaVale's okay with it. But when Looney's playing significant minutes, and it's not even a doubt that it was going to be Looney. I knew it wasn't going to be, Jordan Bell wasn't playing well in that backup role, jumping up and down. So Steve had to go to somebody else. I knew it wasn't going to be JaVale. So it's Looney, and if Looney's getting significant minutes and crunch time minutes and fourth quarter minutes and playing well, yeah, I think they're moving towards a spot where whatever they can get for JaVale, and not even get, meaning they don't have to sacrifice anything to dump his contract, then I think they got to do it. I think it's getting pretty close. And what's that deadline? February 5th? It's way up this year. I think he's going to get moved. I do, and it just there's too many guys. They got too many guys. Kerr can't even keep the 4 or 5 of them happy. Forget about now 6 of them. So I think JaVale is going to be on his way out just because of what you're saying. how long are you waiting for JaVale to just blow up at some point? And I don't think that'd be too good to see because he's still a very popular personality on that team.
Yeah, he's in the locker room. He doesn't seem like it's impacting his relationship with his teammates. He's still engaged. They were in the locker room joking about. I think this was in Dallas. Apparently, Kevin Willis. You remember Kevin Willis,
Sure,
right?
Sure.
Kevin Willis had like a denim jeans line, like big man jeans, right? They were all like extra large. It's like if you're super tall, it's hard to find jeans. So Kevin Willis made a line of jeans, and they were laughing about having them. And JaVale McGee was like, I had a pair of Kevin Willis jeans, and Draymond was talking about how you remember Kevin Willis came to Michigan State and was trying to sell him on the jeans, and Kevin Durant said he had a pair. Like they just. They obviously had won a thrilling game on Steph's buzzer beater, but JaVale was in the mix,
Yep.
and I remember thinking like, yeah, he doesn't seem discontent at all,
No.
and he probably is, but his relationship with his teammates hasn't wavered at all, and you can see him on the bench celebrating every play. I just know it's got to be hard for him to go from where he was. Remember, everybody was talking about how JaVale McGee had resurrected his career. And he finally found a place, and the Warriors have turned him around, and he's about it. We finally get to see the JaVale we all thought we could see, and the whole nation loved JaVale so much that they were attacking Shaq for making fun of JaVale.
Yep.
Like that's how favorable JaVale was. And then you fast forward to this, and he can't get in the game. I just wonder if he's like, I want to play. Like, I finally got a taste of I want to play. Or maybe he says, you know what? I'm about to win another championship. There'll probably be a spot where I'm needed, and I'll be able to come in and make a big play, catch a lob or something, or have a big game. And this is a cool way to ride this out. So maybe he does that, but they better get that from him. You just can't leave a dude as a sixth sitter. Right? I mean, can you? I guess you can.
Yes, you can. Yeah, I think all that's true. And I think he's in his back. Worst case scenario, I don't play and I get another ring and I'm around a bunch of good guys. But I think there is a point where, and also they're winning, right? That's what if Steve was going to play, whoever, and the Warriors win. What are you going to do? Complain about in that locker room? But if they lose a few and he's not playing, or if Steve's trying out other centers who aren't playing very well, and JaVale feels like he's been slighted, which I don't think he feels at the moment, maybe it changes. I think just for everybody involved, so you don't go down that road, I think it's better to move them. Since they've already had the conversation, since you've already reported it, it's out in the public. They're not trading Zaza. They're not trading Jordan Bell. I don't think they're that interested in trading Looney at this point. So what do you do to break up the clutter? You move McGee out. And by the way, Kurt, one of the reasons why they're sitting so many guys so often, I'm not saying that Durant could have played last night, but Kurt loves that. Why? Because it means he doesn't have to deactivate McGee or Looney. He hates doing that. And so they're just so swift to have guys not play who are in their regular rotations, just so Steve can just protect that back end and doesn't have to make a decision. Oh, Caspi, okay, you're not playing. Just so he doesn't. You should have seen it. I don't think you were there when Slater asked him the other night, "Are you deactivating McGee or Looney?" And Steve's face just got this, genuine look of, I don't want to deal with this. And they deactivated Looney. That bugs him. So just to get out of that conversation, I think they're gonna move McGee if they possibly can. Possibly can.
We've forgotten about Damian Jones. I haven't even asked about him. You heard anything about?
No. I have heard that they were. Well, I'll just put it this way. Just generally, I've heard that they had a lot of hope for him last year. That he was last season, looking decent in practice, and then Jordan Bell arrived. Bell arrived, and it was not even like, oh yeah, we got Damian Jones too. It wasn't even. And then they were happy with the way Looney practiced also. So it wasn't, oh, by the way, remember Damian Jones. They don't say that anymore. They said that last season. And I don't know. Obviously, you and I haven't seen him, but there must be something where maybe Bell just kicked his ass in training camp. Those sort of stuff happens, and that's how teams make decisions like this. And I can see how that would have happened because Jordan Bell does a lot of interesting stuff, does some stupid stuff, but so do all young players. And once they saw Bell next to Damian Jones, I just think the mindset changed about one of these days Damian Jones is going to be the guy. No, I think it was Jordan Bell.
That was the running statement, though,
yep.
Right? That was the, man, we got Damian Jones. Oh, man, he can jump. He's got a nice touch on the mid-range.
Very athletic. Yep. That was the thinking during the playoffs last year, right? I'm like, look at that athlete. Man, he can do stuff JaVale can't do. Look how – and I do not hear that anymore.
Yeah, he's completely in exile in Santa Cruz. Like, we hear about Quentin Cook.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
we don't hear about Damian Jones.
Yeah, I wonder what again, that's a guy that they got a little more time on than with JaVale, but it's another guy. I mean, hey, listen, they keep drafting centers. They can't keep all of them, and I think, and I've said this before, I think Zaza's coming back next year, and we'll see what. By the way, David West, should David West even think about retiring, playing like this? My goodness.
He's probably the best center.
Yes. I mean, he's the most productive.
He's the most productive. He's the most productive center. Like, there's no way. He did roll his ankle pretty good on that Chris Paul crossover.
That was nasty.
So I talked to him afterwards, and he had this big old bag of ice on his ankle, and I was like, man, how you just gonna let your old friend do that to you? He's like, oh man, he pushed off. He was just mad about I blocked his shot before. He's like, he's so angry all the time. He's still angry. Like, that's my guy. He angry.
Yep.
And I was like, so are you prepared to be a meme? And he's like, oh, I don't care about that at all. But I'm gonna get him back. But he said that they're still friends. They were all-stars together in New Orleans back in the day. But yeah, it was funny. He's just like he was like in awe of Chris Paul's fieriness, and David West is like not a meek guy.
No.
And he's like, man, that dude, he's so angry. Like, I blocked his shot, he got mad, and that's why he pushed off on me, right? But he did actually sprain his ankle. Like, it actually happened.
Oh, okay, sure.
He twisted his ankle and he had ice, so maybe there's another time where you won't have to put Looney.
Yep.
Looney on the inactive list.
Yep.
But speaking of Looney, though, this is going to be interesting because now, like, he looks to the point where even you might see some people saying, man, maybe they should have picked up the option, right? Is he really carving out a future on this team?
Well, I mean, financially, I don't know about that. If he was under contract or they were able to pay him a decent amount, I think they'd love to have him next year. Obviously, the coach loves him, but I just think financially, what are you going to pay him $3 million and have it go up in luxury tax costs and repeater and all those things? And when you've got Jordan Bell and you've got Damian Jones and you've got a bunch of other things you can just try. I just think they had to make that decision because they didn't know this was coming. If you didn't know it was coming, you couldn't just say, okay, he's worth $5 million next year, which is what it would have been with all the luxury tax payments, I'm pretty sure. So, but we'll see. I don't know what he's going to, we've heard all these other reports and all these Warriors are going to get all this big money in free agency, and it really hasn't happened. Obviously, it would have Ian Clark. I mean, JaVale McGee. The numbers are wrong. I think the numbers are wrong about McCaw. I said that last season. Like, people were saying he's going to be a $10 million player. No, he's not. He's not. He's a solid player. He's not going to be worth $10 million, and clearly not now. There's just I don't know. I don't see Looney being anybody in a bid. If there was a bidding war for Looney, the Warriors would have traded him already. So I don't know. I guess he could come back on a minimum deal. If not, I think the Warriors are fine with that. They've got guys. That's the thing with them. They've got guys, and they can always attract guys. There's going to be veteran centers out there who don't have a job, and you don't think they would like to do what JaVale did last season? I mean, they'd line up for that. And there's always guys like that. And they just fit the Warriors system. Just move here, screen there, rebound there, and then you're fine, and then you're out of the game, and Draymond's in. So those Jordan Bell's separate from that. That's what we all noticed from the get-go. He's separate from that. He's above all that. These other guys, it just kind of rotate him in. It depends on who Kerr likes, and he could go find someone else he likes. They're out there. And, Dwight Powell, I mean, that's a guy who would be perfect for the Warriors. And you think there's a bidding war for Dwight Powell? No. So I don't think that Looney's a guy that they're sweating over, even if he starts playing well. If he helps them out this season, that's kind of a bonus. They weren't expecting that.
But, Steve likes guys that he likes.
Yep.
And I think Looney is getting into that category, where Steve just likes him and he wants him around. I can't see a path to where Looney becomes maybe the third big in that rotation, fourth. If David West retires, if they decide Damian Jones is not going to pan out and JaVale's gone, now you got three spots just open up. But if Zaza returns and David West returns, now it's like Steve, but he's building this rapport with Looney, and he's like praising him and he's rooting for him, and everything he does gets talked about greatly. I almost see Steve saying, I want the continuity that I have with Looney. So let's figure out a way to bring him back. And I don't think they pay more than $2 million for him.
No.
I think that's too high, but I don't. Who is going to pay more?
Yeah, they could bring. Listen, if it's cost effective, they could bring it back. But
yeah,
I think they're not planning for it, and they're just fine. I mean, Steve's probably not thrilled if they just dump him, but they got other guys, and Steve could fall in love with someone else. And
they brought back Varejao.
They could do it again. Bring him back again. It just isn't. There are going to be other guys like that, and it's just not worth that kind of investment in someone who's young, and you're still not sure what he's going to do against Cleveland in Game 3. So I would say this is a good run for Looney. This is good for Steve. And this is still probably the last season he's a Warrior. I just don't see how the finances add up perfectly on that one. Assuming if Damon, they've already guaranteed to pay Damian Jones next season, so that's a slot right there. And they're going to add a veteran, and there's another slot, and they got other things they could do, and I'll write about something like that over the weekend. But I do think they want to switch things up, and I don't think it includes Kevon Looney and Damian Jones in long-term plans. I'll just put it that way.
So back to the top of the roster where the real money is. We've seen Steph Curry back for a few games. I think Kevin Durant, those splits looked a little rough. I could see how that might have started hurting the next day. But I do also think he probably needed a rest too after carrying the team for 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. What do you see from Steph? What do you like? Is 2015-16 Steph's back? Because man, he looks aggressive.
He does. He does look like that. I don't think it's back for a sustained whole season like we saw that season, but there's a reason why he's the first ever unanimous MVP, because no one had ever seen that for a whole season, and maybe we saw that it built up on him as they went into the playoffs. So I don't think they need to see that from him more than 3 or 4 games at a time. It's nice to see, I'm sure, for them, and it's super entertaining. And I always enjoy when you ask him how bad he's shooting, and he tells you that he doesn't want to be asked that anymore because it's coming. And he does seem, as you wrote, he seems healthy, and the finger plus all the others, the ankle, whatever else. I think that he cleared that up in this time off. And maybe he wants to take some more time off later in the season just to make sure he's like this in the playoffs. Because if Steph's like this in the playoffs, forget about it. And he
really forget about it. There's nobody beating him with like this.
Nope. And that's even, Durant doesn't have to be at 100%. I mean, he's going to be very good. But if Steph's like this, they beat whoever. They beat whoever, assuming Draymond's there and Clay's there. They beat whoever. And then they got Durant too. And then they weren't going to need some shots from Iguodala like they always do. But Steph like this, and all you need to know is he can do it for a series at a time. This is the Magic Warriors. This is the time when the world falls in love with them, and that was 2015-16. And he purposely took a little backseat to Durant last season, but then he came. When Durant got hurt, he was really, really good. It wasn't quite this good though, right? The last few games, and back he comes. And do you think it's important for him mentally to show he can do this?
Yeah, no question. I think they're just better. They're better when Steph doesn't defer. I mean, that's really just the bottom line. The complement of players, and I hate to say Durant is a complimentary player, but because he's so good, he can be that, right? He can get 25 points in multiple ways. He's already shown that. But he can get 25 as a finisher, as a transition player, as an occasional creator. But Clay can't, right? Clay has to be in this role. He can't be the guy facilitating the offense for himself. It just affects so many players when Steph is this guy. Now, it doesn't affect Durant that much. Durant will be fine either way. It even affects Draymond, right? Draymond gets the open shot. There's some bounce. Like, the game is faster, so his game is kind of fitting more. He's the half-court situation. I don't think that's the best for Draymond. Draymond, he needs to be pushing it, and that's where your big who can run the floor is kind of an advantage. So it just feels like everything is right in the Warriors world when Steph plays like this. And it's crazy, though, because this is year 2, and it feels like he's just now getting comfortable playing like this with Durant.
Yep.
Right? Like, it seems like it's still, and I want to see how it works out in the playoffs, but Steph has that, like, I don't care who's on my team. Like, right, I'm doing what I do.
Yeah, and also the shot's obviously feeling good for him. He can try to do this, so the shot's not going in. He's not going to play like this, and the shot's going in. So I think that just makes him feel great. That the shot feels loose, it feels free, and it's weird that we're talking about this with the greatest shooter of all time, but there are relative ranges of how good he feels shooting the ball.
Man, he's shooting the ball like there is no doubt it's going in when it leaves his hand.
It is just the peak high point stat, which we've seen. Certainly, it's not the only time we've ever seen it, but this is it. And it's just not. He's not thinking about it. Like, sometimes he does think those wide open shots. You can see him thinking a little bit.
You can watch his brain.
That is not happening. It's one of those where he's like running to the spot and knowing when the ball touches my hands, it's going up, and it's going in, and it's feeling good. And it just, these rest periods are good for these guys. That's what you wrote about it. I've joked about it. They need to schedule these rest periods for these guys, because if they come back refreshed and happy, and by the way, Warriors go 9-2 when he's out, so that wasn't a problem. And with Durant last year, 13-1 or whatever, 20-2, whatever it was. This is the luxury of the Warriors, and why wouldn't they take advantage of it? Let their guys rest. They come back and they feel even better, and then you go full-fledged in the playoffs. And then sometimes they're resting Durant in the playoffs, basically, with an injury he could have played on. Why not?
Right?
Why not?
Resting Durant and Steve Kerr.
Well, I don't think the Kerr was a rest, but yeah. This is the luxury they have. And, when I was talking to Lacob the other day, you got to talk how hard the playoffs are going to be. These won't be easy. Look at all these good teams in the playoffs. You don't want to be limping in. I think that's the one thing, and I won't say it's a lesson from the 73-win season, because, guys are going to get beat up in a season no matter what, even if you're going to win 73 or not. But that mentality where we're going to grind it out for every game because that's who we are, they don't need to do that. They just don't need to do. Other teams have to do it to get the 4th seed, to get home court in the first round, to whatever. They don't need to do that. So that losing that, and again, they only lose it because Kyrie Irving hits a great step back 3 in Game 7, and Draymond gets suspended for Game 5. All those things. Maybe that's not something they needed to learn if they just make those plays. But by losing Game 7, I think this is the consequence. Let's just take guys and pull them off the court for a little while and make sure that we do everything possible that they're fresh. Maybe not even for round 1, but for rounds 3 and 4. And they go 16-1 last season in playoffs. So I think they're going to try to repeat that.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if they're going to repeat it, but they're definitely going to try. They do have that kind of air of, like, we know you can't beat us. and other teams start to feel it. Like, with the way they're looking with Steph and KD, especially with Steph. Like, he made that turnover, and Steve is going nuts, and he's like it wasn't open.
Yep.
But before Steve could say anything, Steph came back down and hit a three, and, he immediately starts gesturing to Kerr, like, did you see what I just did, though? Like, trying to wipe away the turnover. But when he shot it, it's like, this is like peak Steph. Oh, man, I just made a turnover. All right, I'm about to go hit a three because I know Steve is going to keep hitting a turnover. And there was no chance it was going to miss, which is kind of insane. Like, there's only a few guys who can do that. But that's where you're like, okay, this dude is back. And then he's going to talk to Steve Kerr. Like, yeah, Steve was like, in the past, there was nothing there. What are you doing? But did you see that three?
Yep.
Did you see the three I just hit? Like, that's peak. That's when they feel like you can't beat us. And they felt that after that game. Like, Clay, just whatever shot I want to get, turn around, whatever, pull up, transition three. I'm taking it. I'm going to make it. And I'm going to talk to my friends from L.A. who are on the court. Like, that's where the Warriors are, where Klay Thompson is, like, showing out for his friends in L.A. Like, that they're like, this team's not beating us. Like, you make all the threes you want. Have at it, right? Just keep shooting them threes. Yeah, Gerald Green, make 10 of them. You're still going to lose. That's how they felt. And part of that is because something about Klay, like, he's not, we haven't seen the great Klay, right? The major explosion. But we've seen the steadiest Klay we've probably ever seen before.
Yep.
Like, you could book him now.
Yep.
For 25 points.
Most efficient Klay. No question.
Yeah, and with that, like, what do you, if this is how it is, what do you do? Because remember Game 6, like one of the greatest performances ever? Like, that seemed to have unlocked the Klay where it's like, yeah, like, I made it now.
Yep, house money. House money.
and this is Klay. And you know what I want to ask you? Did you read that Patriots piece?
Oh, yeah.
There was, like, I don't know, we're talking a little bit of football, Warriors plus minus, but there was this, like, air in this article of it was only a matter of time, right? Before the Brady, Belichick, like, it's amazing that they've been able to hold it together for this long. So I'm reading this, like, on the flight. Monty Poole, who was trying to read it but fell asleep, because it is a long article. He's like, man, I'm going to have to read this tomorrow, like, when I get home. But it made me wonder, like, how long can the Warriors keep this up?
No question. I mean, again, basketball players, and if it's different career lengths, but no personalities and the owner.
If there's an SC30 workout camp and Brandon Payne is, like, all in the practices, then I'm like, yeah, exactly. I know this one.
Exactly. And then they draft a young point guard, and that guy's getting a lot of interest, and they don't play him because they got the other point guard. But also, would Tom Brady have ever been the guy who said, let's bring Kevin Durant in here? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's where this one's different. And
he didn't want Garoppolo.
He didn't want Garoppolo. He wanted his guy Brian Hoyer. So yeah, there's just different mentality. I think Steph, we've talked about, he's a different mentality of a superstar. So many of these guys are, like Chris Paul. They're angry. They're fighting for stuff. They're stubborn. They're going to give it up in their last drop of life. They're going to try to put down the next guy, and that's just not Steph. He's great in a different way. So I just think that Durant signing for so many different ways illustrates that this is going to have a little more length than maybe some others. But Shaq, Kobe. Michael, Phil, Reinsdorf, and Krause. These things do blow up, but I think this thing's not going to blow up right away, and it's because the personality is involved, and it's because the main guy, number 30, is willing to embrace a lot of other angles and accept that he's not, was an NBA Finals MVP for 2 years. Great, so what? He'll take everything else. It might build up at some point. And we'll have to monitor it. But right now, these guys are 29 years old. Him and Durant. I think this thing's gonna last for a while longer.
Yeah, and the key though is that, like, even if it gets a little crazy around Steph, as long as, like, he's so important to the franchise that as long as he's good, the situation is probably good. Like, as the article painted Belichick as the one holding it all together. Like Steph could be that guy, but they also have another guy. Bob Myers is a guy who holds it all together. They do have some components though, where if it all blew up, you wouldn't say, yeah, I'm surprised by that. Like Joe Lacob, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr, like they've got some, like, Kevin Durant has the entourage pieces, like Rich Kleiman, like he's got the Nike people around. Like when you start putting all those factors in there, and I'm not saying like it's happening now, but the elements, of that stew are there. But you do have Steph Curry and you do have Bob Myers, who seem to be content with letting everybody else do their thing, and that might be able to save it. But I could totally see it. And you know what? Look, if they trade Clay or Draymond, what does that do to the fabric?
Yep. Or both.
Or both, right? Or both. You trade. Oh man, you trade Clay and Draymond. Now is Steph more or less inclined to be that guy? Right?
But I'll put it this way: the whole Patriots thing is really happening because Brady's getting to the end. That's what it is.
Basically, yeah. So that's exactly what it is.
It didn't happen when he was 36. It's happening when he's 40. So I think, if we're equating Steph and Brady, and there is some equivalent there, this isn't going to happen until he's 36. The play is seriously falling off. And it really isn't. Brady's going to be MVP this year, by the way, and we're talking about his play falling off. But so that's the thing that held the New England together was that they were going to win if they just did it that way. They're going to win. What's breaking it apart is, geez, this is not the way we're going to win for very much longer. So what do we do? And Belichick had theoretically decided it was Garoppolo, and Tom Brady didn't want any part of that. So we'll see. But it's going to be when Steph gets to that point where he's not the guy we're talking about who can just go in there and beat somebody on his own. And they're a little ways away. And as he's proven the last few games, they're a little ways away from getting to any decision like that.
Yeah, they've endured a lot of stuff already, and it hasn't been a divisive issue. Like, just bringing in Durant, that is monumental. Like, what's happening in New Orleans since DeMarcus Cousins come in? Right, like that team doesn't feel like the ultimate of synergy and chemistry.
Involving DeMarcus Cousins is shocking to me. Shocking that would be involved. So
it just feels like, look, we'll see how it works in Oklahoma City, and like LeBron and Kyrie didn't last. There's something different about like the Warriors. It feels like they went through the fire early, and the parts that might break you up, they already kind of got to deal with it. So, and then they bonded. So now they always have that together, right? They always have, we went through this together. We went through the tough time. Well, we kind of had the band together. Everybody hated us. Steph had to, put himself aside and, be ridiculed or written off. And yeah, they had all that. And now they have this harmony, which is weird because there'll be games where Durant just won't get shot. And he's fine. Like, he's not even, like, you can hear the grumbling in the locker room. You'll hear people saying some stuff. He's fine. And I think you're right. I think it could last for a long time. But it just, man, that article really makes you, it really did make you think this stuff doesn't last forever. It always ends, right? And at some point, this Warriors thing is going to end. But who knows when that is? Maybe once they leave Oakland. I think that's a good barometer, right? Like the moment they go to San Francisco, it's over.
I think this is, and we got to wrap this up a little bit here, but I think this is on the minds of Joe Lacob and Bob Myers and all those guys that they want to max everything they've got right now, but they also want to plan. They don't want this all falling off the cliff when their guys get to be 33, 34, 35. So I do think, again, that they're planning to elongate it. Might shorten what's going on here because it screws up the chemistry. But I also think they're not thinking this is going to be forever. We're just going to roll out the same five guys, and it's just going to be great for Hampton's five is always going to be the greatest. They understand, at least, theoretically, that this isn't going to last forever, and they're going to enjoy. That's what this was about. That's why Andre got $16 million a year, because they just want to make sure they maximize the now, and they're going to pay for it on the back end of it, probably in a ridiculously inflated contract. But then they're going to deal with it. They are going to deal with this, and we'll see if they do it right.
All right, can I go to sleep now?
You can go. You're the one talking. You're the one doing. You're the one doing all the talking. So we're just waiting for you to.
Look, we mixed a little football in, so hey, that's how it went.
We react to the hot topics of the day. All right, Marcus, get some sleep. Good work, and we will hear back from Warriors Plus Minus next week. We'll hear back from Marcus. Who knows when on the website?
Yeah, next week.
All right, everybody.
All right, we're out.